Hello and welcome to this AdWords API screencast. Today we're going to show you how to migrate from client login to OAuth2 using the Python client library. And we start this video with the homepage of the developer's AdWords API. The reason being is we've recently moved, so if you can't find us, if you can't find the coding project, then if you go to client libraries and Google Ads Python library. Okay, so this takes you through to the GitHub repository, which is very similar to the code.google.com sort of repository that you'll have seen before. One thing to make sure you're aware of is that this is now definitely Git. So here you've got the README and all the sort of usual stuff right there on the first page, so that's all great. And if you're familiar with GitHub, this should all be very straightforward to you. So I've already got the repository downloaded, and it's just configured at the moment as you would have your client library, your application configured. So it's just that the normal sort of client login properties set up. So we don't want this home page so much. We want to go through and find the wiki page that tells us how to do OAuth2. So if you go to the home page, you might not see it, but if you click on the Pages tab and then using OAuth2, then you get a lot of really useful information about OAuth2, and some of it further on is in quite depth, and you know, you can really see how to configure it very fine-grained. We recommend that you start off with just making the simplest change, making sure it works, and then advancing it if you need to. So that's all well and good, and now we just need to prove that we're definitely on client login at the moment, and that can be done simply just by going through to our application and running the get campaign script, which you can find in examples, the usual sort of place. AdWords v2013-09, which is the current version at the time of making this video. So basic operations and get campaigns. Right, so if we run this, we should get a bunch of results. Fantastic, we're getting some results back. What you see there is that there was a little delay because it had to make a second request, so we know that this is paginating, probably because there's more than 100 results. So there will be actually 2 requests in this particular example. And we can just double check that we're definitely running OAuth2. This is a simple way to identify it, besides looking in the config file, by looking at the SOAP log. So if we look at the SOAP log, we can see here this auth token property SOAP header that basically is synonymous with OAuth2. So if that's in there, you're definitely still using OAuth2. So if you're logging these requests anywhere, then it's a good way to check to make doubly sure. And we'll just step now through the configuration just to make sure that this is everything that you expect. So I've copied the old configure script. It's been replaced with the new configure script, which will set up OAuth2 only. So I've got this old configure script that just points out, will just be as you run it the first time. And basically, we're just checking that we've got the login email, which is already configured there, along with the login password you can see there in square brackets. Both of those properties are, again, highly linked to client login. If you're using those, if that's in your configuration, then you'll be definitely using client login. So then just the other properties, developer token, all the rest of it. Then some other settings that don't need to worry too much about for this video. So, okay, so we've definitely got a configured script, and we made a request, as you saw a second ago, with client login, and everything worked okay, and we managed to identify it by just checking on this OAuth2 step here. So what you'll see here is 2 requests, because as I said, it paginated. So if we have a look for the other request, there's the other request. So we definitely got 2 requests, and then that's it. Right, fantastic. Close that. And now we'll make the changes. So we want to make the changes, which means we go back to the wiki page, the OAuth2 wiki page, and basically this first section is telling us to go to the Cloud Console and register a project and some credentials, basically. So the point of going to this Cloud Console is we want some credentials that will allow us to access the AdWords API. So you'll be asked to log in and then eventually you'll probably see this page with nothing on it, but you would create a project. We've already got one set up for this Python example, and we go through to a page that looks like this, and you want to go to APIs and auth, and you want to go to credentials. So if we get into there, you'll see some credentials. You can pretty much ignore those at this point in time. You want to create a new client ID. So we click Create New Client ID, and then you'll be asked which sort of OAuth2 flow you want to go through. In this case, we want to use the installed application flow, as that's the simplest to get started with. And we want to go with Other because we're not an Android or iOS application or the like. So what's happening in the background is it's creating those credentials for us. Fantastic. It's registered a new set of credentials and has offered them to us there. And if you come back to this project, you'll always be able to find them there. So if you lose them for your configuration file, you can always go back and find them on the Cloud Console. So we've done that. We generated a project and we've given it, an installed application flow. So we want to go back to our client library. To our command line, and there's the helpful configure script, but this time we're going to run the new configure script. So this is the one that you would get by default now if you downloaded the application. So if you run the new configure script, it's going to ask you for the OAuth2 client ID. Well, thankfully we just created that. So we can copy it verbatim from here and dump it in. So that's the client ID, and then we see we want the client secret over here. So next step, we just copy the client secret and dump that in. It's going to ask us for a refresh token. We haven't got that yet, and don't worry if you've approached this in a different order, but we'll generate that in a second. So we're going to leave that blank and go past this step. Then it's, again, you see our client customer ID, which we're going to leave as is. Same with the user agent developer token, and we're just going to select the settings that we normally select. Okay, so that's sort of halfway there. We're set up. You'll see here when it was asking us about the refresh token, it was asking us to run the scripts common generate refresh token. So you can find that in the scripts directory, but this time not in the AdWords directory, but in the common directory. And generate refresh token. So if you run this script, so again, going to ask you for a client ID. So we're going to dump that in and client secret. Please bear in mind, do not share these credentials with anyone. These are private to you. You shouldn't be, especially the client secret, you shouldn't be sharing with anyone. And it's going to ask you what type of product you want to use. So in this instance, we're going to look at using AdWords product. So press 1 for AdWords, and then it's going to give us a URL here. So now you want to paste this into a browser where you've got the MCC account logged in, or if you aren't logged in at all, you want to log in as the MCC account. So this is me. I'm already logged in as my MCC account, and you can see this OAuth2 dialog box that you'd be used to if you've used other OAuth2 services. So it's asking for permission to manage your AdWords campaigns, and we want to accept that because we're the MCC and we know that this is us, and we want to accept that, and it's going to give us an authorization code. This is not the refresh token. It's a very easy mistake to make, but this is not the refresh token. So we take that code, we drop that back into the command line tool. It's going to make another request in the background, and essentially the outcome is you get a refresh token. So success, we know it's worked. This is brilliant news. So we can take that refresh token and we can run that configure script, the default downloaded one that you would get now again. And it's stored the credentials we put in earlier, so you don't need to do that again. So it's got the client ID and client secret that we've already put in there. Now we're getting prompted for the refresh token, and we're going to drop in that refresh token we just generated, and then we leave all the other settings the same, obviously with the exception of these that we're forced to respond to. So now that should be all set up, and the easiest way to test that this is all set up is to make a request. So we're going to run that example get campaigns again, and if all is correct this time, we will end up with a bunch of results. And here we go. So we're seeing again this request is going on and we're getting results. Okay, this could be magic, could be trickery right now, so we're going to check the SOAP logs again to make sure that we're definitely using OAuth2. So the easy way to check SOAP logs, remember SOAP logs are stored in your home logs directory. So we should have 4 requests now. 1, 2 from the original 2, and then this is the 3rd request, and finally 1 more. Okay, great. So these last 2 requests are just the OAuth2 requests. As I said before, there's paginated, so there's 2 requests in our instance, but in yours it may be more, maybe less. So we're looking at the first request. This was done at 15:06:46, 15:13. So that was the time from the previous one. So this is 15:13. It's 15:14. It's a minute ago. There's a good chance that this is the correct request. So what one of the things you're looking for first up in the headers is this authorization bearer. So what this is synonymous with OAuth2. So if that's there, there's a good chance that you're using OAuth2. And then the other thing to check for is that there is no auth token in the SOAP headers. So here's all the SOAP headers that are sent in the request, and you can see there's no auth token property in there, which means that we're definitely not running on client login, and with this authorization bearer, we're definitely running on OAuth2, and the same for the second request if we scroll down to that in the series. So this is the second page, and again, you've got this authorization bearer and no auth token header here. You can see we're getting results back for that. So this is fantastic. We've definitely switched over to OAuth2 now, and we can, maybe look at using sort of manual creation if you've got a more complex application, or you can stop there if that's all you needed to do to change your project over. And fantastic. We encourage you to look through all the OAuth2 docs just to make sure that you're completely aware of everything that's available. And we hope this session's been of use to you. Again, as we've said many times before, please make sure that you follow the blog for any updates, and of course subscribe to the forum just to make sure that you're on top of everything that you need. If you have any problems, please ask the questions in the forum. Someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.